Hello everyone, this is Freedom Dove again. I was getting ready to make a new batch of my herbal skin salve and I thought I would share that with you later. But first I wanted to make a video clarifying the oil infusion process that I described in the lip balm videos that I made. I'm afraid I probably caused some confusion when I was talking about the water baths and the double boilers, and I apologize for that. I was really nervous and I kind of bounce back and forth from making salves to my creams, and the processes are a little bit different, so again, I apologize for that. So we're just going to talk about the oil infusion process for right now, and then I will make the video about the skin salve and you'll be able to see again how that is done, and it's very similar to my lip balm. So anyways, there are actually several different ways you can infuse oil with your herbs, and it's really kind of depending on how much time you have. You can go fast, you can go slow, and you can go really slow. And there are different containers you can use. Mostly it's just canning jars or pans, and you need to make sure that the canning jars have tight-fitting lids. And this is a plastic lid you can get for the canning jars, and you can use that, but you need to make sure that you have these little silicone rings, the little inserts, because that will make them leak proof. If you use this lid without the silicone gasket, it would not be leak proof, and so you want to make sure you have that. And if you don't, just use the regular lids that come in the canning jars, because those are a really nice tight fit. And then the pans, I would only recommend using stainless steel or glass. And if you have ceramic, if you're lucky enough to have ceramic pans, you could also use that for infusing. I would definitely avoid aluminum or the Teflon coated pans. You don't want to use those for infusing your oils. And then also you could break that down again to even more subcategories where you're having a wet method or a dry method. So the wet obviously requires water input for the whole duration of the infusion, and when you do a dry method you don't have to have any water. And so I actually prefer to do the infusion dry so that I don't have to have that water usage. Okay, so starting with really slow, that would be the most natural and the most gentle way to infuse your oils. And what you would do is you would just take your canning jar, in this case you would use the jars if you're doing the really slow method, and you would put your herbs and your oils in there. And for the oil infusion, I would not go more than like half full, because when you do that, you're not able to shake it. There's really no room for the oil and the herbs to move around if you were to fill it up all the way. And so, half to 3/4 of the way. And there are so many different size jars. This is a pint jar, which if you only had a very small amount, you could get away with that. And then this is the next size up. That's a 24 ounce. That's the 16 ounce, 24 ounce, and this 32 ounce quart jar. And that, for the most part, like if I was doing my current infusion in jars, that's the size I would have used, would be the quart jar. And then this is obviously the big mama jamma, like if you had a lot. I also have gallon size jars. They're not they're not canning jars, but they do have tight fitting lids. And so, yeah, if you use that method, you're basically applying no heat at all. And so you just need a lot of time. You can take up to 3 months to infuse the oil if you're doing it just with no heat or anything. You still have to shake it or stir it every day, and so I prefer not to go for this really slow route because I'm pretty impatient, and normally if I need an oil infusion for like my lip balm, I need it faster than 3 months. And so I don't normally do the really slow infusions. Okay, I'm looking at my notes here, sorry. And then we go to the slower ones, and slow can be a fast slow or a slow slow. So there are different stages to the slowness here. You can do what I first started out with was a water bath in my crock pot. And when you have it on low, or some of them even have a keep warm, you can let this go for 1 to 2 weeks and you'll be fine. The problem that I have with the water methods is because you have to keep, the water is going to evaporate. And if you'll see the scale inside here, this is because I was putting water in here for my water bath and I was not adding vinegar. That's why now I've learned my lesson. Now I put vinegar in with the water anytime I do a water bath so that this doesn't happen. But anyways, regardless, that water will evaporate and you have to keep topping off with more water. And I just find that that's kind of a pain. So I don't really like to use the wet methods. Sorry, I keep saying and I have to look down at my notes. It's either that or I edited a lot. Okay, so again, you can do that, I would do that for 1 to 2 weeks. That's how long I did that. At one point, I had like 2 or 3 different crock pots lined up with a bunch of different jars because I was infusing the oils separately. I don't do that anymore, but it was fun. It was, not really, I'm being sarcastic, but yeah, you have to really keep track of the water usage and everything. You don't want to run your crock pot dry. And so the next slow method is what I actually ended up doing this time. This is my magma pot, and I've got my herbs and my oil in here, and I just set it on my radiator over here, and because it's winter time, and so this was providing a very gentle heat. It wasn't getting as warm as like if I were to use the double boiler or anything. So it's considered a slow method, but it's a faster slow method because this has been infusing for about a month and it's ready right now. You can go longer. It's not going to hurt anything as long as you keep water out of your infusion. No matter which method you use, you cannot allow water to get into your infusion. So just keep that in mind. And you don't want to cover it. Like I have a lid for this pan, but if I were to cover it, it would have caused condensation and I wouldn't want that. And so you can just put like butter muslin over it to keep dust and everything out. And if you have an old radiator heater or anything like that, you can just set that on there. And again, you have to stir it every single day. So I keep this here because what's going to happen is I just stirred it, so you can't tell right now, but the herbs are going to settle to the bottom and the oil will be at the top. And so you do need to keep that stirred in order to kind of progress the infusion along. If you never stirred it, it would probably take longer. So I don't recommend leaving it alone. You really need to check on it every day and either stir it or shake it. If you're doing it in a jar, you just need to shake it. And again, you need to leave room in the jar so that you can shake it because this is really thick. Now the problem with, let me backtrack just a little bit. The problem with doing the really slow method where you're not applying any heat is that you have to do this in the summertime when it's warm outside, or you have to make sure that you're using oils that don't coagulate and they don't harden at all. And see, that I can't do that. So that's another reason why I don't want to really do the really slow method, because my oil infusions usually have coconut oil and olive oil, and those will both harden at room temperature. And right now it's like 63 degrees out here in the garage. So I have to apply heat to my oil infusions in order to process them. So I guess it just depends on what time of the year you're doing it. Okay, it's already been 10 minutes. I'm going to try to hurry here. And then, yeah, another slow method would be one that I haven't used yet, and that would be to make like a sun infusion. And that's probably what I'm going to try when I'm on the road, because it seems the best way for me to do it as a nomad. And so what I will do is just go ahead and put my oil and my herbs in here, and I'll just set them out in the sun every day, and I'll do a sun infusion like you're making sun tea or whatever, and that should be done in like 1 to 2 weeks. So any of these slower methods, you'll be okay if you only do it for a week, but if you went to 2 months, you're going to be fine as well. The longer the better. Just keep moisture out of your infusion. And let's see, like I said, when you're doing the water, the wet methods, make sure that you have enough water. And then that would bring me to, yeah, the fast methods. And the fast methods would be to either use a double boiler or to use your oven. And I've done both of them. I've done all, actually I've done all of these except for the sun infusion. I've not done the sun infusion. And like I said, I don't do the really, really long no heat infusions either. But the only way you can use any kind of direct heat source like this little burner is if you do it in the double boiler, because even at 500 watts, this is way too much direct heat for my oils. I don't want to get the oil infusion above 145 degrees or so, and if I were to put the pan directly on that burner and turn it on even on the lowest setting, it just gets too hot. And so if you want to use an electric burner, you really need to use a double boiler. And this is just a 2-part pan, and you put water in, you know, not very much, like an inch of water or so. And then you put your oils and your herbs in the top portion, and you turn it on. And this would take about 24 hours. And if you are in a very safe environment and you're awake a lot, like you don't sleep a lot, you can do this, and you can do it in about 24 hours, but you have to really make sure that you're always checking the water level, because it will start evaporating. It starts cooking off. So if you are not going to be attentive enough to keep track of that water, don't do it this way, because you don't want to ruin anything. You don't want to ruin your pans or your oils or anything. So the double boiler can be used with a lot of attention. I don't think that I would ever want to use the double boiler or anything for on a gas burner, because if it's for 24 hours, you're not going to be awake for 24 hours. That's just not safe. But if this is on the very lowest setting and there's enough water in there, you can go to bed for, 5 to 6 hours and wake up, and the oil will still be fine. The water will be fine. It will be cycling on and off while you're sleeping. But I don't really recommend that because of the safety factor. So, and then the other fast method is the one I actually prefer, and I'm not going to be able to use it on the road, unfortunately. But I have taken a pan just like this, not this one, because for this one I'd have to take off the handle. It's a removable handle. But I've taken a stainless steel pan and just putting that whole thing in my oven and pushed the keep warm feature, which was the lowest I can get it is 145 degrees. And so that's what I set it at. Unfortunately, my oven shuts off after 12 hours, so I had to turn it back on after 12 hours so that I can get a full 24 hours. But it was also done in about 24 hours. So if you want to go fast, you can do that. You can put that pan in your oven on keep warm, or you can do the double boiler method. So obviously that one's the dry method. There's no water involved. And then this one's the wet method, where you have to keep track of the water all the time. All right, we're 15 minutes in. I was going to try to keep this short, but apparently I cannot do that. I think that was it. Again, make sure you're stirring or shaking every day. You want to keep that all nice and combined. It will help make it go faster. It's not going to hurt anything to make it go longer. It's only going to make it stronger. So, whoop, and try to get all that oil off. It's kind of a pain in the butt. All right, well, hopefully that clarified some things. If you have any questions, please leave a comment and I will do my best to answer you, because I'm sure I may have left something out. And so I don't blame you for having questions. All right, I will see you in the next video when I am making my herbal skin salve. Talk to you later. Bye. Hey guys, I was editing that first part and I realized that I forgot to talk about this setup right here. I didn't really go over that all too much. You can use the water bath method on a burner, just like this, but you would take your jar, again, like half to 3/4 full, and you'd put it down in here, and then you would add water, you know, as far up as you could without it becoming a problem. And again, you add some vinegar to it if you have hard water. And then you would turn your burner on the lowest setting, and this is my 1000-watt burner, so it's going to be twice as hot as this one, which is my 500-watt burner. So you're really just going to have to play with the temperature, basically. And again, you just don't want the oil to get above 145 degrees. And like I showed you before in the other video, this is my digital thermometer that I use to keep track of the infusion. And so in this case, you don't want to stir this. You're using the jar, but you don't, I'm sorry, you don't want to shake it. You do want to stir it, because that would be a big mess if you had to keep taking this out of the water and shaking it and stuff. So in this case, I would just probably keep this lid off, again, making sure that no water got into the mixture, and you just do it just like that, and then you'd be able to take your long spatula and stick it down in there and stir it. And if it's going pretty fast, which this probably would be considered the fast method, you wouldn't want to do this for very long, so about 24 hours. So when you do that, you're going to stir several times a day instead of just once a day. When you're doing the slow methods like that, I just stir once a day usually. But when you do the fast methods, make sure that you're stirring several times a day, or as often as you can, like once an hour or whatever. Okay, I think I'm really done this time. Sorry about that. All right, see you later.